Hello, Internet. Welcome back to another edition of Eric's Corner with the word of the not so wise. Recently, as you may know, there was an interview with Vladimir Putin done by Tucker Carlson, which of course got immediately attacked and criticized due to Tucker Carlson's very consistent right-wing views. I mean, if that's really what's got you upset here, that the interview wasn't done by somebody who's left-wing that suits what you want to believe or suits the narrative or the agenda that what you what you've been supporting, you hope that it's being backed up. If it's something you just refuse to watch because of who did the interview, you know what? Shut your mouth. Stop being so loud and outspoken when you were just going to be willfully ignorant and avoid getting more information. I did do a video, one of my first videos actually, about Ukraine. What I call my first fan. I think he's the one that was the first to comment on one of my videos is about Riley Gaines, and he was asking about Ukraine. He hit me a few questions. If you want to shut this off and backtrack and go look at that to see what I had to say, or watch it after this, so you see how my opinion has gotten a lot more up to date. I really couldn't answer a lot of questions because I felt I did not have enough information to say anything intelligent about it. Now, granted, I'm not a journalist. I haven't spent time in Ukraine. I'm just talking about the information I got from Putin's mouth in this interview. So even if you don't like Tucker Carlson, watch the interview or shut the fuck up. That's a pretty fair conclusion. So I got about 10 bullet points here. If you have more questions, obviously I don't have the whole thing memorized. Give me a time window so I can run back and get something tangible to say on it. But one thing that really stuck out in my mind was Putin said it's impossible to beat American propaganda because we own all the media, which I thought was very interesting because that is immediately what I accused of the U.S. doing, and why I said that I wasn't going to develop an opinion for a while. That first video I made, I think this had been going on 8, 10, 12 months at the time. But some things I thought I called and was kind of right, and some of the things that I said were documented, sort of. So that's good. One thing I said is, America is screaming, oh, he wants to go to nuclear war, and I said, well, I haven't heard that out of his mouth. He speaks perfect English. The interview wasn't in English. He had a translator. I don't know why they chose to do it that way. I assume he can focus and think about what he's saying a lot more than trying to translate. Cool, that's fine. But what did I just say about you can't beat America's propaganda because we own all the media? And he thinks that whole and Tucker asked him about it, and he says, well, that whole nuclear thing was meant to scare the citizens. He does not sound like it's anything he has any interest in, which is something I kind of figured. Tucker asked who blew up the pipeline, and he said you did. I'm not quite sure what he meant by that. I assume he meant U.S., but I did mention before that Ukraine is Putin's Iraq. Media, again, whether or not it was real, was saying, Putin's saying there was genocide and neo-Nazism and so on and so forth. Took it with a grain of salt. I mean, I get that, not saying he was right or wrong there. Well, right out of his mouth, that's what he's talking about, is neo-Nazism. He talked about how Ulinsky's father fought against Nazism, and yet he seems to be fighting on the other side. He did have a sit down with Ulinsky, and he said he's not really going to repeat what they talked about because he figured it was not really his place for us not to hear what came out of his mouth directly, which is fine. He said Ulinsky canceled negotiations and refused. It's not Putin. He said he's willing to sit down and negotiate, and he thinks that's under Washington's advice or instruction. I mean, since my other video, I don't know how many another $100 billion we've sent to this place. I mean, their budget is $63 billion a year, and we're at 4 times that or whatever. I mean, no, we haven't literally sent all that money to them. It's gone to other things. It's in the bill that says this is Ukraine relief, and of course there's money in it for other things because they got to vote on 15,000 pages at a time on things. I don't know how the hell they think that saves time or whatever. Um, Putin mentioned, uh, Tucker asked him about Christianity. He says, well, Christians by faith are nonviolent people, but we do have the right to protect ourselves. Well, I mean, you got to be willing to hear Putin's side of the story. Not saying whether he's right or wrong. I mean, probably not going to hear him out and think, oh, yeah, never mind. I'm totally on Putin's side. I mean, I think he's an asshole. I think what he's doing is completely unacceptable and not something that in this modern society, this is the way things need to go. Um, he did mention the Roman Empire, which was kind of cool, I guess. I know there's a Facebook trend of how often do you think of the Roman Empire and so on and so forth. Tucker asked him about AI, and he's like, "Oh, this is a very complex issue in genetic research." And he says it can't be stopped; it needs to progress. But if it becomes self-aware, self-regulating, like I assume he means like Terminator, or whichever futuristic AI movie that takes over humans, iRobot, Matrix, whatever. At that point, then there'll need to be international negotiations and regulation on it. And Tucker asked about Evan Gerksek, oh god damn it, Gurskavadis. I did practice before this video, and I'm still butchering his name, but he's a journalist who's been held as a political prisoner, being held as a spy, basically. And he said, well, will you just in good faith send this guy back to us? And he's like, well, I keep doing in good faith things, and it doesn't really seem to get us anywhere. He never really directly accused him of being a spy. He's like, yeah, but he is sending information, whether it's just being sloppy or not really realizing what he's sending. It doesn't matter. He still sees it as espionage. So he's apparently being held as a spy. So why is this, what's going on in Ukraine, relevant to us? Why is this what America is picking to be the humanitarian thing to do? Well, I mean, we got too many business dealings and invested interest in Ukraine with Hunter Biden and the FTX scandal and all this. I mean, there's wars going all over the world, and for some reason, this one is important to us. And I mean, I get it. I don't want the Ukrainian people taken over, but also I don't think our whole country needs to go down with them either. I mean, if America falls, the rest of the world goes with us. There's no Navy to protect the sea lanes. I mean, we have military all over the world, peace through superior firepower. People say, oh, well, this is building an empire. This is being imperial by leaving bases here. Well, a lot of those places want our bases there because you screw with that place, and there's a whole shit ton of ass whooping coming down on top of you. I mean, we can bring an entire battle group to anywhere on the planet in about 3 days. I mean, I'm talking nuclear submarines, aircraft carriers, LDGs, LCACs, destroyers, cruisers. I mean, it's just not going to be good for you. So, they didn't mention the interview, but we did have to reroute the world's container ships coming from that area because Iranians in the southern part of Iran, I believe it is, are starting to shoot at our container ships. So they started, instead of going through the Suez Canal, they're going all the way around Africa, adding millions of dollars in fuel. It's the least green thing we could do. Not that I give a shit about green energy, but this is making things worse. And this is in protest of what's going on with the Palestinians in Israel. And goddamn, this is such a mess. This shit is all connected. And I'm just beside myself here. I mean, nothing in the world ever seems to get better. I mean, what, we just need a full economic collapse to where we don't have money to fund the war machine? I mean, America can self-sustain for a long time with the resources we have here, with the fuel and the minerals, natural resources. We can grow our own crops and everything. We don't really need other countries as badly as they need us. So it's not a good symbiotic relationship. So I mean, I don't want a victor. I want the conflict resolved. I want peace. There's no reason for this just keep going on. And these maybe people would, or these other countries would kind of be a little bit more willing to negotiate if they didn't have America just to send them billions of dollars. I don't understand. And oh damn it, I don't remember his name. I just watched his video, and I didn't think I was going to get to this, so I didn't write it down. But maybe I'll put it in the comments or whatever. But he's saying, like, why do we have endless amount of money to fund the war machine, but when it comes to anything we have here, we just don't seem to have it in the budget? It's like, well, because the politicians are embezzling it. 10% for the big guy, right? And you've been caught red-handed. I mean, you're doing this. These politicians are doing this in broad daylight and in plain sight and with total impunity, and nothing's happening. So what do you think they're doing behind closed doors that we don't know about? I mean, they're guilty of high treason and everything else, and they do it right in broad daylight. What do you think they're doing those to distract us from what they're really doing? And, Pelosi's insider trading, the Biden's foreign interest, Hillary's email scandal, all of a sudden email security and classified document handling was all of a sudden really important once Trump had some declassified shit that they threw all over the floor and then took pictures of and put online. Yeah, it looks like classified documents. I'm sure that's how he stored that shit. It was on the floor of his study. Makes sense to me. Okay, getting way off topic. Just a quick recap, that nuke threat, fabricated scare, just like I said, it probably was. I mean, nuclear war does not make any sense. You contaminate the land you're trying to invade, you blow it to smithereens, and you can't use it for decades afterwards. I mean, granted, Hiroshima and Nagasaki have been rebuilt, but I mean, it's been poisoned for a very long time. I mean, the birth defects and the radiation sickness and all that. I mean, it held on for a very long time. So they'd be far better off blowing something up in the stratosphere and creating an EMP to take out an enemy for an invading force. But there's no reason to invade us. I mean, you can't do it. We're the most invadable country, uninvadable country on the planet. We got too many guns. Ishiroku Yamamoto was credited with the quote. There's no evidence that said that he said this, but I just kind of want to believe it was him. And he was the one that said we awoke the sleeping giant after Pearl Harbor. At least I think. I might have that backwards, but he said somebody said you can't invade America because there's a gun behind every blade of grass. But I mean, I'm very, very less willing to even try and stop any of this, because they've waged this political campaign. Because I mean, he's got people pouring over the southern border, and we can't start shooting at them. Because, of course they're an unarmed force, but I mean, they can pick up arms here just as easy as anything. They can pick up material to make bombs and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got on the Putin interview. Shoot me some questions if you got them. I've talked way more than long enough and gotten way too off topic, but that's usual. So I hope you enjoy my show. Like and share, and let me know what you think in the comments. Other than that, have a good rest of your weekend.